God. Hi, everyone. My name is Melanie Lynch, and I'm the founder and CEO of Herstory. And I'm really delighted to welcome you all here today to this very special Nollaig mBan event. And I want to say, firstly, I'm so sorry about the technical issues that we're experiencing this evening. Basically, we've reached max capacity on our Zoom, and we are streaming live right now on IrishCentral if you want to invite your family and friends to join this wonderful event. So sincere apologies from our end if these things do happen. I didn't know that the event would be so successful, and it's our first time doing a live streaming with Zoom. We normally use StreamYard, so lesson learned. Okay, onwards. So we're really delighted to be co-hosting this event today with our wonderful partners mBan and with our media partners IrishCentral. And firstly, I'd love to share some insights about Nollaig mBan and the inspiration for this event. It is traditionally Women's Little Christmas in Ireland, and I suppose it has patriarchal origins. And that's really important that we reclaim and reimagine this wonderful ritual for the 21st century, which is why we're doing what we're doing. So on this night, the men folk traditionally would have prepared the meal and they did all the housework, and they let the women off the hook. It was the women's first night off over the Christmas holidays. And now it's become a lot more contemporary, and it's got loads of energy, and there's loads of events happening around Ireland and hopefully internationally too. But we have to say credit to the women of Cork and Kerry who kept this ritual alive throughout the 1950s. This event nearly died out, Nollaig mBan, the ritual, and they kept it alive. So fair play to the women of Cork and Kerry for staying strong to their roots and for celebrating, come together and to be wonderful women and to mark this special occasion. So it is the feast of the Epiphany. It's the day that the three wise men came to meet Mary and the baby Jesus. And we also had our own Epiphany in Herstory HQ. I was meditating one day back in 2016, and I asked myself the question, when you're not supposed to be asking questions in your meditation, I said, well, what about St. Patrick's Day? If Ireland lights up the world green, why don't we light up the world in honor of women? Wouldn't that make sense? Wouldn't that be a beautiful thing to do? And so we started the Herstory Light Festival on Nollaig mBan, and the first year went viral all across Ireland, museums, castles, libraries, illuminating in honor of women and children. And from there, the event grew, and at the request of the Department of Foreign Affairs, we moved the event to Bridget's Day. So we're here today, I suppose, on reflection of the fact that it is a spiritual day too. And we've just had a beautiful Christmas, coming together with family and friends in very, very challenging times. We've also to reflect the fact that, I suppose, the challenge for women throughout the last 2000 years, the women have been written out of the Christian story. And in some ways we had historically lost our Indigenous Irish goddesses, and then along came Karen Ward and Bernie Sexton and her amazing team at mBan, and they breathe new life into these Irish goddesses. And I'm just so honored to present Karen now, to introduce her and her wonderful work. So over to you, Karen.
Báilte gach aine. Welcome everyone. Agus gur míle maith agat. Melanie, thank you so much for this invitation from Herstory, a visionary, absolutely visionary initiative movement. And I come to you from the Beara Peninsula in West Cork. And in preparation for today, I went down to visit the Hag of Beara, the crone herself. And I remember in 2017, going down to illuminate this magnificent stone in tandem with the Herstory initiative way back 5 years ago. And here we are, mBan. We are an international community of women with Celtic soul, who our sovereignty, we look to Grandmother Moon, Shan Bhóthar Kalyak, turner of tides, star of us women folk. And we see her, as the ancients did many, many moons ago, as a symbol of the divine feminine, just as the sun is a symbol of the divine masculine. But more anon that we will talk about. We would like to offer you the opportunity to imagine that you're in perhaps you're local, perhaps you are gathered around a cozy, warm fire at the hearth with your women friends, with your family, and we're celebrating what it is to be a woman in the world today, and particularly an Irish woman or a woman with Celtic soul. You may be Irish living abroad, or you may be from anywhere around the world and currently calling Ireland your home. So whatever your background is, you are very, very welcome. Fáilte, as we say. We have a treat for you here this evening. So whether you're with us on Zoom or you're watching on the live stream for Irish Central, we are going to have wise conversations. We are going to have creative performances, if you will, sacred entertainment. And this is all based on our Moonmanal book, Goddesses of Ireland, Ancient Wisdom for Modern Women. And 39 women wrote from their hearts about what it's like to reach back into the mists of time and to take the gift of the archetypal energies of these goddesses and to see how they influence our lives today. What are they saying to us? How can we live our lives as best we can as women? Taking it for granted that our menfolk are doing the same thing and that we all come together with our elders, with our little ones, to create the best world that we can today. If you're with us here on Zoom, you might like to put your name and your location in the chat and have a sense of how wide Nollaig has become in our world. As Melanie said, for a long time, it was concentrated in Cork and Kerry, but nowadays, yes, we're stretching right across the globe. Without further ado, we are going to go into our first wise conversation. And this is an opportunity for myself and Melanie to be joined by others, women who are coming from a myriad of different backgrounds. We have Dr. Jermone, we have Leisha McGrath, we have Patricia Lohan, and we're going to ponder on some questions that you as a woman may have thought about, perhaps looking up at Grandmother Moon, perhaps in circle of women, or sitting around your hearth fire. And we're honored to have a little, yes, that deep, meaningful conversation that we hope will inspire you. Let us go to our first wisdom conversation.
So our first topic of this evening is a really profound, deep question. We're going deep from the beginning, as we do as women when we come together around the hearth. And we're going to explore the archetypal energies of the Irish, Celtic and pre-Celtic goddesses in this event. But our first question is, what is their relevance in our lives today? Ger, what do you think?
Well, first of all, let's talk about archetypal energies, because that's quite a powerful concept. And all the goddesses we're talking about, and the one I'll be talking about, mBan, they're all examples of archetypal energies, which they're so called because they arise from our lived experience as humans, that what we share together. So they run across culture, they run across time, they run across generations, they connect us with our ancestors, and they capture our imagination, they go to our primal emotions. So they're very powerful because of all that they bring together. And therefore they can appeal to us. And if you become fascinated by an archetype, and in my case by mBan, you're going to be inspired and excited and ignited and energized to work with that energy and bring it into the world. And of course, that's back to your point, Melanie, that we need these archetypal energies. We need goddess energies in our world. We need the energy that comes with these goddesses. And mBan, for example, it would be a classic case. The goddess of the River Boyne, which is where Newgrange is located, and so-called Brúna Báine, the palace of the goddess mBan. mBan, her name means white cow, and she's associated with the Milky Way. And with that comes the notion of nurturing, abundance, mother, but she's also a lover, and she's also curious and a seeker of wisdom. And with all of that, she defies patriarchy, and that's, I think, what got me fascinated by her. And as I delved more into her, and there's so many stories about her and about Newgrange, I became inspired basically to write a novel, which I have just written, where I try to imagine the world of Newgrange and who was it that built it and why did they build it, and a world totally different from ours. Which I'm glad to say I've finished the novel, Winter Sun it's called, and it's coming out this year. So I'll hopefully be having my own event at some point. But there you go, mBan comes in, an archetypal goddess comes in, she captures you, and then you give it the space and you give it the time and you do this kind of thing. And we'll be giving great examples tonight of what we can do to work with these energies. So why are they important? Because they energize and hopefully will bring about a big social change as well.
Leisha, you're a psychologist as well as Ger. I'm just curious as to how that sits, the idea of ancient goddesses and their energies and how they influence today. How do the two marry?
So, I mean, so well put. I agree with everything Ger said. It's almost like she was my teacher. So lovely to see you, and I can't wait to read your book. You know, the archetypal energies are unconscious. We know them, we instinctively know them. And the one that speaks to me in particular is Danu, is Mother Earth. We know and hear so much about her with climate change and everything that is going on in the world right now. And for me, the reason that she speaks and the reason that she's important, and in my work as a psychologist or as a shamanic therapist or coach, whatever hat I wear, for me, her essence of coming home to yourself, her essence of tuning into yourself, her energy of being true to yourself, of being fierce, of being loyal, of being green, of being anything that requires you to be you. When you come home to yourself and resource yourself with an energy like Danu, it allows you to be anything in the world. And it allows us all to bring our authentic selves forward. And for me, in my own, I'm coming to you from Switzerland, from a health clinic where I was many years ago when I was very, very sick. And I learned so much from her, the importance then of keeping some back for yourself, so that if we resource ourselves as women, we can then bring ourselves out into the world. In my role as birth mother, in the work that I do with women who are kind of lost sometimes in the patriarchal world, where we're living in this outer world. In the book that I'm trying to write at the moment, I'm not where Ger is, but it's called How to Live from the Inside Out. And I think if we can connect to that inner energy, into that sense of home that Danu allows us to do, we nurture ourselves, we allow ourselves to resource ourselves so that we can bring all the other things forward that we need to do. So for me, she's always the first energy. It's the place to start. It's the place that allows us to bring forward all the other energies. And I think when all the divine feminine, as we'll talk about later, is rising, we need to have that place of nourishment, that place of resource to begin with, and then move forward from there.
I so agree with you, Leisha. And I'm thinking very much of Goddess Aisling at the moment. I would associate her very much with this time of year, the last month of winter. And we're looking into the updraft of Bridget bringing the springtime. And it's a time of visioning.
Yeah.
And our ancestors knew that the dream time is winter, when we hibernate, when we go within around our warm, cozy fires, where we have that inspiration to dream in the time ahead. And then, if you will, come spring, that's when we get active and we begin to put those dreams and coming to fruition, say, during the summer and the autumn. But I've always felt that New Year's resolutions are too soon. I'm still in that hibernation mode. But the idea of this wonderful ethereal goddess, Aisling, who is the one who calls to us to vision the future, to dream it in. And I don't think it's been ever more important in our world today that we have the ability to do it. I mean, Melanie, you are a visionary. Perhaps you'd like to say something about that.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, actually, because I suppose with Herstory having so many events around Nollaig, mBan and Bridget's Day, I don't get to hibernate. I have to hibernate early, but it's a very important time for me. And that's when the magic and the illumination comes. And I do hide away into the world, into nature. I go into the heart of nature and I find creative inspiration there. And I think our modern living doesn't support the natural, I suppose, natural flow of our bodies and of nature, and we need to return to that. It's really essential for our health, our well-being, but also for the planet too, because I think when we drop in and we connect deeply, we connect with the reality of the planet and the condition of where it's at and where it needs our love and our attention, and that's where our creativity needs to flow at the moment. It's a really creative solutions to the environmental crisis and how we heal that relationship with the earth, which is very much where the goddesses were all about. You know, they were earth goddesses. So yeah.
Very, very true. I think it's probably time now that we might spiral off to some of what we were smiling and calling earlier on sacred entertainment, to meet the women who have creatively expressed how the goddesses have spoken to them. And these are normal, everyday women. They're extraordinary, but as many of us would say, extraordinary in our ordinariness. In other words, it can often be the case that you see some woman doing something amazing and you think, oh my gosh, I wish I could do that. And this really is how to do it. In other words, to catch the updraft, if you will, of the ancient wisdom that's seeping up out of the land here in Ireland, this tiny little island off the west coast of Ireland. And we have an opportunity to really be the best we can be. Having said, we are humans, we make mistakes, we get it wrong, we fail better, as they say. But let's find and go to these women and see how they are influenced. But within this, I'd like to introduce you to each of these 7 goddesses to give you at home an opportunity to connect. Now, maybe you know these goddesses well, or maybe they are completely new to you, but there's an opportunity to rekindle that connection, or perhaps even for the first time to really feel that. We are going to start, surprise, surprise, with Goddess Bridget. And you'll see here this magnificent image created by Wonder Woman Bernie Sexton. She is an artist, she's a graphic designer, she's the publisher of the book. And as you can see, here is Bridget, but you can see with the background, there's that sense of modernity, there's that, funky urban edge to it. And I invite you to look into Bridget's eyes and to drop down from your head to your heart. Bridget is the bringer of springtime. She heralds new beginnings, fresh starts. She's a goddess of the Tua de Danann and a daughter of the Dagda, the good god, as he was called. Goddess Bridget has come in a triple form. She has 2 sisters. One is Bridget the healer. One is Bridget, the inspiration of poets, of artists. And one is Bridget the blacksmith. And were these 3 aspects the same goddess, or were they 3 sisters? That we don't know. However, we do know that in the 5th century, a woman was born, was incarnate, if you will, who carried the energies of Goddess Bridget into the world. She was born up in Fahart in County Louth. Her father was a chieftain. Her mother was what was called a bondswoman, what we would know as a slave today. And young Bridget, by all accounts, was an extraordinary young girl with a mission. Not for her to get married, not for her to have a regular job about the village where she lived, but she had a strong vocation and spiritual calling. Bridget followed her dream. She started something new, and she went all the way down past the Hill of Slane and the Hill of Tara to Kildare. And there she established a mixed community of men and women. ever practical. She espoused all of the energies of Goddess Bridget, noble one, fiery arrow. And today, Bridget gives to us the opportunity to look to what do we want to start? What do we want to begin? It doesn't matter what age we are. And there is always a way. Bridget speaks to us down the ages. Soon, she will be our national holiday, our new national holiday in 2023 on Imbolc, the Celtic festival of spring. And we are honoured to say that our Melanie of Herstory was the initiator with two other Moon Mana, Tracy O'Connor, Lorna Everett Monaghan, all came together to start the petition. And soon our national holiday will honour this iconic, feisty, epic Irish woman. Sha. Now we are going to the wonderful Deirdre Nicaneda. And if Deirdre is there, she is going to sing to us, a singer, a composer, a motivational facilitator of women's workshops. Deirdre, how can I possibly tell everybody, a composer? I hand the noble call over to you.
Margaret, Karen and Céad Míle Fáilte Roimh. It's lovely to be coming to you this evening from the hearth here and from the Aran Islands, very small island off the west coast of Ireland, which for me has become a spiritual home. I'm originally from Dublin and was brought up on Bridget's Road. So she, I suppose, was a guide from the very beginning. But making that journey to the Well of the Heart brought me here to the Aran Islands. And it's lovely to be connecting from a small place around the world and just listening to the energy of the archetypal goddesses and that sense of every single human being in the world has been birthed through a woman. So I love the invitation at this time of the year to just rest in the darkness, to rest in that womb darkness, and to trust that as we cross the threshold of Bridget's time and the 1st of February, that new shoots from nature encourage us to open the heart and to really listen to the stirrings there. So I'm going to sing with you, I hope. I know that you're going to be muted when we sing, but music has become a real joy for me to share the essence, I think, of what Bridget and what that call to open the heart is about. So the little prayer chant that I'm going to sing is called Oscail Machree, open my heart. And even though we can't hear each other, with the ears of the heart, I think we can listen to a sound that we are creating right around the globe this evening. And I'm going to link in then to a song which I've wrote, which is called She Guiche, or Spirit Breeze. And it talks about the breath that moves between this world and the other world. So the ancestral voice, the ancestral sound that is with us always and encourages us to be the very best that we can be. I think for Bridget, that was always around peace, peace of our own heart, peace in our community, and peace around the world. So Taras Machree, I'm going to sing that. And hopefully then in your own spaces and places, wherever you are, you can sing it too. And then I'll just call in that blessing from the ancestors in She Guiche. Oscail Machree, 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 Askulma Creek, 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 Askulma Creek. And this rise a creek is eich leis an ghrian. By the war we bio, for the war we bio, and let the wind bestow the grace to know, for the path was clearly shown. Oh, the path was clearly shown. And if we listen, we can see all that we can be. So sings peacefully. So sings peacefully. Manam da Manam da Listen till we see all that we can be. So sings peacefully. So sings peacefully. Namaste.
Deirdre, that was spine-tinglingly beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, your voice just evokes Bridget and her energy so well. And thank you for starting with opening our hearts. Doesn't that say everything? To be the women that we are in the world today. Mila Buikas,
Gotcha.
1,000 thanks.
Gotcha.
We spiral now from Bridget to another goddess who is very different. And yet there is a connection. And this is the Morrigan. Once again, I invite you to look deep into the eyes of this beautiful image, a very evocative image by Bernie, the wonderful Bernie Sexton, artist, designer, and publisher. And to come once again from your head to your heart as you meet, perhaps for the first time, the Morrigan. She is the crow goddess, as she often shapeshifts into the crow to fly over the landscape. She was much maligned in history as the war goddess, or a goddess of battles, and indeed prophecy. And we discover that she is so much more. The Morrigan was one of 3 sisters. She, with Bab and Macha, were known together as na Morrigan. They together supported her unseen as she came into the world as the goddess of birth, death, and rebirth. The Morrigan for us is our Kali of the East, the Valkyries of Scandinavia, and she comes to us to teach us, you must let go of the past. You must let something die to bring in and birth the new, to rebirth, if you will. Her domain is Onicat, the cave of the cats in Rathcroghan, a cave deep in the earth said to be a portal to the other world. The ancient annals tell us that the Morrigan was invited by the sun god Lu to speak to all the gathered warriors before the second battle of Moitura. And she prophesied that they would win, the two-headed Danann, the tribe of Mother Earth, but she also spoke of how to embolden the warriors to be what they needed to tap into that deep strength within. Her prophecy foretold of the end of the world in gruesome terms, and there the ancient annals stopped. Was there more? What was the Morrigan trying to teach us? There are those today who would say she was speaking of this time now, of how we as humanity have come to disregard our mother, Danu, the earth, of the floods and the fires and the droughts, of the melting ice caps. The Morrigan was one who knew the richness and the treasure of the land, and that symbiotic relationship that we have together with our mother, as with our Father Sky. The Morrigan's gifts to us today are to stand up and speak our truth. Others may not like what we have to say, but with discernment, we can find those words to release whatever we need to let something die, to rebirth, and to bring in our dreams. Míle buíochas. We now have the wonderful opportunity to listen to this poetic prose, the story of Rosaleen McNally. Rosaleen is a Reiki master and teacher. She is an artist. She is a therapist. She is a circle facilitator. And she comes to us to speak of how the Morrigan comes through and how she influenced her life. Rosaleen. Rosaleen, we can't hear you at the moment. That's okay. The Morrigan, is playing tricks with us.
That's me. Sorry. Now
Wonderful.
I will restart. It's a pleasure to be here. The Morrigan has walked with me for a long time. She holds a special place in my heart. And through this particular story, its healing power has been working through me for about 2 years. So I invite you, if you wish, to close your eyes and come step into this journey with me and to meet the Morrigan, to see maybe what medicine and power may be here for you. Spread your wings. In the darkness of the cave, I tread silently, back and forth by the Morrigan into my deepest being. The anticipation and fear of what is to be asked of me echoes around me. Yet something else is rising within me. Relief, a balm to my weary soul, knowing life cannot continue its current trajectory. I feel her piercing eyes upon me. It's time, she shares, to drop the forms you are accustomed to. It's time to try on new ways and let them course through you. Too tired to resist, I surrender to her path. I only take that which binds so deeply to your ways. I only take that which restricts your life force, and I receive it as a gift of life, she whispers gently. I stand on a dry ocean bed. I stand on the bones of my ancestors. I feel beneath my feet all of my ancestors. I feel it rising within me, their stories, their emotions, their regrets, their unlived lives. Feel the pain, the Morrigan reminds me. Do not let this harden you. Do not let it smother your life force. Do not let the waves of emotion consume you. It's time. I feel the condor, the length of my back merging with me. Open your condor wings, the Morrigan directs. Crack open the places that have frozen with pain, loss, and guilt, the parts you cannot and do not see. I do not do this to torment you, but to enliven you. Let this open you. I reflect to you the light of your being, where you hide from yourself and from your life. As my body adjusts, the strength of my ancestors hold me. Their wisdom expands through me. I listen to the dreams they carry for me. I tune to it. Reverberating through the caves, I hear her words. Dismember, so you can remember who you are at the core, so you can live fully. Dismember, so you can remember the true expression of who you are. Dismember, so you can remember the power that flows through you. Dismember, so you can remember the depth of your being. The potent presence of the condor behind me and of my ancestors beneath me allows their wisdom to permeate through my blood and bones. Their message flows through me. Remain open. Hold open space for yourself. Take up space in yourself. Stand and take your place with us on the ever unfolding web of life. I feel them reshaping me, reweaving the stories in the fibre of my being, rearranging my inner landscape, allowing renewed life force to emanate from within. The Morrigan pronounces, I am here to always remind you to not accept a half-lived existence. Emerge, she gestures. Feel your feet on the earth. Spread your roots deep into the soil and spread your wings. I stand at the mouth of the cave, facing east, and I step across the threshold into a new dawn. Thank you.
Rosalie, I have chills. Absolutely beautiful. I really felt the Morrigan come strongly through your words. Míle buíochas, 1,000 thanks.
Pleasure, thank you.
And from the Morrigan, we spiral now to Eru. Eru, the goddess who gave her name to this land. This is another opportunity to look deep into her eyes, and very much coming from the heart space. This is how we really hear the message of these goddesses. If we think too much in our head, we miss out the subtleties of their messages. But if we come from the mighty cauldron that is our hearts, we hear how they talk to us. Eru, Eru, goddess of sovereignty. Never has it been so important in today's world for us to understand what that means personally. What is our sovereign power? How can we tap into it? And she tells us through her extraordinary myth and legend. Eru is also one of three sisters. Her sisters, Fola and Banba. And they were married to three brothers who were High Kings of Ireland, of the Tuatha De Danann, the tribe of Mother Earth. These were extraordinary people who were said to embody the medicine ways, if you will. Everyone in the tribe knew that they had healing abilities, that they had the ability to be artistic, to express themselves. However, they knew that coming up from North Spain were the Milesians, the Celts, and they were coming to Ireland. They were looking for a place to make their new home. It says a lot about the type of people the Tuatha De Danann were, that who they sent to parley with these new invaders were the three sisters, Eru, Banba, and Fola. And the Milesians sent Morrigan, a bard, a storyteller. Each of these goddesses met him on the sacred site that called to the most on the island. But it is Eru who decided war is futile. Let us parley for peace. Let us mingle our peoples together. And how she did this was extraordinary. She invited Morrigan to the hill of Ishnach, this in the navel of Ireland, the very centre of Ireland. And together they enacted the Banish Rí, the sacred marriage rite between a male leader representing the masculine and the goddess of the land representing the feminine. Only a leader who respected and honored the feminine within himself as well as within the land and the goddess could rule with abundance and prosperity. And so Eru's name became the name of this sacred island. And over the years, Eru became Era, became Erin, became Ireland. And still today, we hear the words Eru, Erin, and Era, and sometimes even the names of her unseen sisters, Banba and Fola. Eru's place on Ishnach is where the four provinces of Ireland, Ulster, Leinster, Munster, Connacht, meet in what's called the fifth province, that otherworldly place right in the center. And from here, she speaks to us today. Be in your sovereign power. Know deep in your heart of hearts who you are and why you are born. It may be your beautiful smile. It could be your kindness to strangers. It might be some amazing feat or skill. But trust that you will know. Trust that you can bring this to the fore in your own inimitable way. We invite now an extraordinary woman, Caroline Flavin. And Caroline is a sound healer. She's very artistic, extremely creative. She's a teacher. And Caroline is going to speak to us of her poetry inspired by Eru, and then to treat us and lead us indeed on a chant that we can join in around our own hearth at home. Caroline, I invite you now. Hopefully we will see you, but if not, we will hear your dulcet tones.
Okay, everybody. So thank you. My camera is not working, so I'll just use my voice. So this,
and we will see your voice, Caroline, with the image of Eru. We will let her be your image, indeed, a flame-haired like myself.
Yeah.
And we will see Eru once again.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you, Karen. So, ladies, this poem for me describes the land and the landscape of Eru. It describes the feeling of being out on the land of Eru at her time of Bealtaine, the start of summer. And it also describes Eru speaking to her tribe, the Tuatha Dé Danann, the shining ones, in an effort to inspire them or us to shine brightly and to evolve. I am Eru, Eru I am. Sweet, soft, gentle misting on meadows green, moist, fecund earth of worlds seen and unseen. Soft, sifted plum rain on silver sanded strands, fronded seaweeds thrashing o'er sea-breamed mollusked beaches. Wild burst, crusted bare rock hills, pink and purple with heather. Dew-kissed and dew-dropped, ferns and forest weaves, golden haze on scintillating greying seas. Shrouded mists and circling circles, ancient of bone and stone. The crone awaits, but at my gate a fire's lighting hot and high, as Bealtaine draws nigh at Isle na Miran. Fire flickers through my dancing hair and feet. Incandescent flames douse my heart to greet Macrena, Lugh, Alatha, and Amergin. I lift my honeyed skirts of green velvet mosses, lovingly clung to mead moistened rocks, and I lift my trifold-leaved, emerald carpeted lands and whisper to the shining ones. Arise, arise, for it is time to dance to light and freedom and your sovereignty. And so now, ladies, I invite you to join me in a chant. And I'm going to ask you to repeat the beautiful word Eru. We'll do that a couple of times. So I'll just tell you how it goes. Eru, Eru, Eru. So we'll just repeat that, please, for 2 times. So in your own time, we'll all imagine that beautiful chorus echoing throughout the web. So Eru, 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 Eru. Arise, arise, for it is time to dance to light and freedom and your sovereignty. Arise, arise, for it is time to dance to light and freedom and your sovereignty. Eru, Eru, Eru. One last time. Eru, Eru, Eru. rise, for it is time to dance to light, to freedom and your sovereignty. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Caroline. And we managed to have a quick look at you. I held up your beautiful image in the book. Thank you so much. We spiral now to a very different goddess, one that is important for us to speak of, one that will affect all of us in our lives at some stage. Some of us a little bit sooner than we might like, and some of us may have to wait many moons yet. This is the Kalyak. The Kalyak, the wise crone, the elder. She who looks into your eyes with her grandmother energy. She who is wise and speaks very much in a way that many others could not do. She is direct. She is, dare I even say it, a little bit blunt, but from a loving heart. The Kalyak, as she is called in Irish Gaelic and in Scots Gaelic, is unique to the Celtic Isles. Nowhere else in the world has a Kalyak, although Baba Yaga energies over in the East would speak of that wise elder. Also, she is very much attuned with the land and the weather. I spoke at the start of the Hag of Bera, where I came to prepare for this, a stone, a large stone, sitting out looking towards the wild and windy Atlantic. Some of you may know Slieve na Cally in Lough Crew, those cairns, many, many cairns in County Meath, or maybe Slieve Gullion up in the northeast coast, up in Ulster. Wherever holds Kalyak energy is wild. And the Kalyak is of an age where she might wear lipstick or she might not. She might have messy hair. She doesn't care what she wears anymore. She has nothing to prove to anyone. She is in her old elder crone years. She's feisty. She has lived the life of a maiden. She has lived the life of a mother. And now in her elder years, she comes to know who she is in no uncertain terms. There are ways of her bringing her powerful presence to our modern lives. And it is never more important because in the world we live in, for some bizarre reason, we honor youth in all its glory. We only have to pick up a magazine, a newspaper, social media, television. So many revere the young. And the Kalyak says to you, honor how you age, but age with grace. And the secret of aging, the secret of ageless aging is to travel deep down within to the mighty cauldron of your womb. She may not be menstruating anymore, but her energetic seeps up to the cauldron of your heart, and most importantly, the cauldron of your third eye, your wisdom. The Kalyak says, step in, the water is fine. And now we meet a very wise crone, the wonderful Della Radcliffe. Della comes to us from Vancouver in Canada, although originally from another Celtic isle over in England. And she is a soul healer. She is a women's facilitator, but I love the way she introduces herself as a badass crone. Della, we welcome you.
Good. I'm hoping that you can hear me now. Is that all right?
A little bit louder, Della, perhaps.
Okie doke. Is that any better?
That is much better.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Badass Crone.
So, yes, I am a badass crone, and I'm so happy to be sitting here with these amazing women on Nollaig, which is such a precious time. So let me tell you a story. The story of the C word, of crones, of Kalyak, and how it became an aha moment in my women's circle. So crones, I've met a few. I take a range of motion class at my local pool to keep fit and to strengthen my new titanium knees, actually. But I'm so inspired by the women there. The average age is 80 plus, and they truly are Amazons. Their bodies are battle scarred from life, from childbirth and breast cancer and hip replacements and knee replacements. And as Karen said, they're beholden to no one. They are feisty warriors who share their joys and their wisdom and their challenges. And every day they take a bite out of life, and I learned that from them. And as a matter of fact, one of them actually goes swimming with sharks. True. So as I leave for my class to meet these women, my husband always jokes, "Off with your warriors and your cronies." And it's true. They are my cronies. They are my crones. They are these wondrous women who show me every day the wisdom and spirit of crone time and of Kalyak. But I learned that not all of us feel that way. For them, crone truly is a C word, something they don't want to embrace. And a while ago, in my women's circle, we were discussing the stages of our lives and the archetypes, the blood mysteries of the maiden, the woman, the crone, and everything in between and beyond. Just like the 13 goddesses, we can manifest each of these in our lifetime, and we can tap into their wondrous energy. So I shared my crone story, my ancient Amazons, and I saw that many were excited about embracing the energies of Kalyak, that powerful creatrix. But for some, not so much. The crone, I don't know. Not realizing that the crone aligns with those powerful energies of Kalyak, and that we could be that powerful too, if we choose. If we choose, it's always a choice. So as we discussed the crone, I noticed a young woman in the group who was kind of fidgeting. She was new to the circle, wasn't really speaking. So I thought, I'll ask her, what's happening. So I asked, "Is there anything you want to say?" And she blurted out in frustration, "I don't know any crones, I don't." I was like, oh, wow. So I gently asked her, "How do you recognize a crone?" With no hesitation, she said, "Very old, feeble, and a bit cranky." Wow. So I looked around the room, around the circle, and asked, "Who here is a crone?" I put up my hand. The woman beside me put up her hand. Hands were going up all around the circle. Almost everyone raised their hand. And it was an aha moment for us all, but not just for this young woman who learned that perhaps she had many crones in her life, and now she would be able to see them. She had a new way of experiencing crone time. But for the crones in our group, it was a reminder that being a crone comes with responsibility, a sacred contract to share the wisdom and the spirit and the medicine of crone time and in Kalyak with others. So through knowing these women and others like them in my life, I now look at aging and crone time so differently. We can choose to continue to learn, to grow, to explore, to mentor. So call us what you will: an elder, a crone, a crony, a hag, embrace our haggitude. Thank you, Sharon Blackie, for that term. And let us reclaim the truth of crone time, one who shares with love her experiences in life, her wisdom, her medicine. She holds the light for others in their journey as well as her own. So again, call us what you will. I am proudly a badass crone, taking a bite out of life and sharing it with others. And as present day crones, we too can gift that creatrix energy of Kalyak to our world and help shape a wiser, sustainable, and more equitable place for all of our descendants of blood, bone, and spirit, because we are the ancestors of future generations.
Della. Oh, Della, I want to be you when I grow up. Aspire to be you.
Take a
I
bite,
love
Karen.
that
You
stuff.
already do.
Oh, bless you. And I think it's so important. I just love the humor in your story, from your husband and the going off to see the cronies, but also that we do have an antiquated version of what it is to be an older woman. And
Yeah.
we're smashing that glass ceiling. We're saying, no, look at us. We're vibrant. We're gorgeous. Our voices matter.
They do.
Now, I am a baby crone, but hey, I'm still a crone.
Well,
Thank you
embracing
so
it.
much, Della.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
We spiral back now to our wisdom conversation, back to Melanie and Jer, and we have Leisha. We may even have Patricia with us now, hopefully. And just a sense of, all we've digested from all that we have heard. Over to you, Melanie.
Oh, it's such a powerful evening, is it? It's spellbinding. And I think it really is a testament to the rise of the divine feminine today, and to witness women from all walks of life, every age, embodying these goddesses, bringing them back to life, breathing them into our lives in the 21st century. There's just a sense of there's no stopping us now, And when you think about the divine feminine, it is rising. She is rising. We are all rising up together. And this is the theme for our next topic. And I was reflecting on this in my own personal journey. And I suppose Bridget's Day, the idea of having Bridget's Day as a national holiday, struck us as a really important cause to champion. Thanks to Tracy O'Connor for spearheading the initiative with me in partnership with Lorna Evers Monaghan and with Laura Murphy and the team, yourself included. And it was amazing, the journey that we went on, and how open-minded people were, Irish women and men around Ireland and the world, to the idea of a new national holiday in honor of our matron saint and our Celtic goddess. And we did it. It's happening. For those of you who don't know yet, 2023 will be the first year of the new national holiday. So something very big to look forward to, knowing that the whole world lights up green on St. Patrick's Day. We finally have a day off for the feminine and for the divine feminine too. So on that note, my question is, we all know the divine feminine is rising today, but are modern women aware of this happening? And how does it translate in our world today? How is it relevant for the greater public? What do you think, Jer? Over to you first.
Well, I definitely agree with you about the rising of the divine feminine. We can see it all around us in so many different forms: women's groups, goddess groups, all kinds of groups. And it is definitely something that's wonderful to see, because it has been suppressed for so long under patriarchy. There's been male domination and suppression of women, and that's part of why, to get that balance, we need to have a time for women-only spaces and women-centered spaces and goddess-oriented spaces, so that we can get women into a position of power and sovereignty, as some people would say. And yeah, I will express a little reservation about the terms masculine and feminine. They do present a kind of a binary world where we look for non-binary and fluid. And hopefully we'll get to a world where we don't need those phrases, but we're a long way from it. At the moment, I think the divine feminine really is that goddess energy. We had such a richness of it in all these contributions, and thank you everybody for giving the richness of it all. It's bigger than femininity or masculinity. It's huge. Yeah.
I agree, Ger, actually. And on that point, when you think about enlightenment, it is fundamentally a state of non-duality. So to be sexist means that you simply couldn't be enlightened. And I think that's the unfortunate truth about the Catholic Church and other religions, is that they've presented a God that's only male, and in doing so, they've actually restricted their ability to reach enlightenment themselves and for their followers too. So it's very important that we move beyond the binary. And I remember sitting down with the Department of Culture and presenting Bridget as a national holiday. And they asked me, but why Bridget? And I said, because she is the perfect embodiment of the masculine and feminine in balance. She is the goddess of fire, the masculine element of fire, and the goddess of water, the feminine element, in balance. And they loved that idea that she was ultimately a path for our own inner alchemy, our journey within, to balance our energies. So that's a little insight I wanted to share with you. Leisha, over to you. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm completely agreeing with you. I think absolutely, uncategorically, divine feminine is rising. And oh my God, in Ireland, we had repeal the 8th, we had all the energy around that, and so many other things around the world. But I absolutely agree. We have the divine masculine and the divine feminine in all of us. And it's so important that we understand that and that we cultivate both those aspects of ourselves. It's absolutely true in the patriarchal world that we're in. We've worshipped these, heavens in the skies, and Mother Earth has been torn asunder. We need to bring back balance. We need to bring back compassion. We need to understand that we're in this transitory time. We need to understand that we're in this time, as we would say in shamanism, idir och, where there's in this in-between time between when we hopefully move to a new place where everybody is more understanding of all of these things. But I think when we have conversations around these, we need to support the men folk as the patriarchy falls, as well as the women folk. And we need to really bring these conversations into balance in a very coherent, compassionate, and open way. And I think it's happening. I'm struck in my own work by people from all walks of life that are really waking up to this. But what I am struck also by is that sometimes people want to learn more, or have an instinct, or they're connecting to some of these archetypes that we've been hearing wonderfully about, but they don't know how. They don't necessarily have the skills or the spaces to have these conversations, to learn more. I'm a firm believer, that all behavior makes sense. And when we know better, we do better. And so I salute everyone so much. And it's amazing from where we're all coming from. I think I saw Hawaii in the chat tonight, that these conversations are happening around the world. And, as a mother with 2 children, and as somebody who has clients in the world, it's just so important that we create more and more of these spaces. And I'm, even though it was awful that we couldn't let people in at the beginning, at least there's so many people who want to come in and have these conversations and connect. And so I'm really just excited and thrilled that we're all here together on the 6th of January, Nollaig Naman, and, Nollaig Naman Abu, and bloody well done, everyone. And I can't wait to see where we're going to go with this.
Fantastic. That is just so well said, Leisha. And I just following on from there, I think it's important that, as you say, these conversations are inclusive of everyone. I mean, it's wonderful to see, just on a quick, that we have maidens, we've young women there, we have the crones are in there, the mothers are in there, we've people from all nationalities who are choosing either to call Ireland our home, their home, but also the Irish who are going abroad to other countries, so that we all are this gorgeous mix. The divine feminine is within us as women, it's within our menfolk, and it's as you said, it's whatever, that beautiful gender fluidity. But I think for me, the Moon Minar used to be talking about the divine feminine rising to take her place equal but different to the divine masculine. And I think that's really important, equal but different. So back in the day, I will say I outwardly express as a woman, but I had the divine masculine I was really very active, very go. And it took me really connecting with Grandmother Moon to find the feminine within me and to find that balance. And I'm blessed to, my partner is a man very much masculine, but he certainly has the divine feminine in that lovely balance between him. So it's within us as humans, but we see it mirrored in the world around us. What do you think, Melanie?
Yeah, that's a beautiful point, Karen. And I think you have a fabulous relationship with John, and how you support each other and empower each other, and a testament to what's possible. And I agree with Leisha's point about our men needing our support as women, and as we rise up, that we create space and hold that space. And I've actually had many men ask that from us in when we do circles together, women's work. And I suppose it's very important to also highlight the fact that men have suffered in the patriarchy just as much as women. For example, as a woman, I cannot imagine being forced to conscript, join the army against my will, and trained to kill another human being. And as women, we don't ever have to think about that. That's not in our consciousness. It's not in the feminine psyche that this is expected of us, that's what masculinity is. And that's just one example. And so to move beyond the patriarchal model, which is dissolving and crumbling, you can witness that happening all around the world. To move beyond that, it's important that we look at our shadows as women and men, and collectively, and to integrate those and work through it. But we've all suffered, and in ways that we don't really imagine, but I can see the healing is happening. And that's why it's so important to have events like this, and to reconnect with the goddesses and those ancient civilizations where men and women were equal. They did exist. For example, the Minoan culture in Crete. I love the work of Dr. Rian Eisler. She's an advisor to one of our new projects now. Karen is also involved. Just a little teaser, we are in the process of developing a huge project about goddesses from all across the world. It's huge, big, probably 4 or 5 year project. So I'm very much in this space, immersed in this theme at the moment. And so we're going to be doing a lot more work in this area, because we need the healing forces of these goddesses in our ancient cultures. And to remember that in prehistory, in Europe and around the world, the evidence is in the art, in the archaeology, that the civilizations that existed, they worshipped the goddess, they worshipped Mother Earth. They weren't bothered creating wars. War is only a recent invention. It only has existed for the last 5,000 to 10,000 years. We are not innately programmed to create wars and violence. That's the wonderful work of Rian Eisler. So it's a beautiful insight to share, that we need to bring this wisdom back online for the collective consciousness.
Let's not forget Ireland in that, Melanie. It's Europe, but Ireland, we also had a pre-patriarchal west culture, where there was no warfare and there was abundance. And that's part of my hope in writing the novel, that people would get a picture of that kind of world. So thanks for bringing that out.
Thank you. Beautiful conversation.
I think our culture, we did have a matrilineal culture. We had the patriarchy, and I think we're at a really unique time in humanity at the moment, where we have the opportunity to come together, that we can dream in something different. And perhaps this is the ideal time now to thank our wisdom conversationalists, and to spiral over to a goddess whose story is it speaks a lot of the world we live in. It very much brings perhaps to some of us a recognition of where we've been at, but it also speaks to us of hope. And this is where we meet the goddess Tlachta. Tlachta is perhaps one of the lesser known goddesses, and yet she inspired something that you will definitely know. Look deep into her fiery eyes. Tlachta is the goddess of Samhain, not just an amazing Celtic fire festival, but the Celtic New Year at the start of winter, the dream time. Tlachta's story brings us to meet her as a young maiden, an only child. We don't know about her mother. Perhaps she died in childbirth. But her father, Magrua, was a man of power. the medicine ways, a druid, if you will. And he brought Clocta, and her name means, curiously, earth spear. And does that mean bolt of lightning? And when her father brought her on a magical wheel of light, did that represent the sun at this particular time of the year? And he brought her over to Europe to meet a fellow druid. But both of these men were greedy and they wanted to amass all of the ancient knowledge of the world. And they realized that young Clocta, who was so innocent, very intuitive, that the peoples of the world would give her their medicine ways, if you will, and then they were going to make her give that wisdom to them to use in nefarious ways. But of course, our young maiden, when she traveled throughout the world and she grew in her own wisdom, she realized what they were up to and she refused. No. Incensed, they threw her in prison, if you will, where she was cruelly raped by the three sons of this accomplice, if you will, of her father. And she was lost, she was alone, she was helpless. And yet her young life brought so much connection with the people she met, with the animals, with the birds, that they conspired to help her escape. And she came back to the Hill of Ward in County Meath, where this great fire festival began. And of course, today we know that as Halloween. Here, Clocta gave birth to her three sons, Dhurib, Cuma, and Muach, said to have become three High Kings of Ireland, and she died in childbirth, just as her mother may have done. However, in her dying breath, she forgave the men. We might say, how could she possibly have done that? But she recognized that something had happened in their formative years, that they could not see beyond the greed, the amassing of fortunes. And she realized for her sons to move forward in a new way for humanity. This was the dream of the wintertime. So as she morphed from maiden to mother to her wisdom crone years, seeping into the land, and is said on Samhain every year, her wisdom comes up from the other world, where the veils between the worlds are thin, for us, for all of us to hear, to move beyond abuse, to find the hope, to find ways of living. I introduce you now to Maria Jesus Marin Lopez, a very wonderful, a mother of three boys. And Maria was originally from Spain. She has lived in Ireland for many, many moons. And now she and her Irish husband, John, live back in Spain. She is an artist. She is a shamanic therapist. She is a healer. She is an actor. And Maria Jesus, I hand over to you now to tell your most precious story.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, everybody. I bring you this picture that I channeled, and I think it goes really well with this goddess. Her heart is a part of the heart in all of us that's pure, that can never be damaged, and it can never be corrupted. So no matter what's happened in our life, we are pure and our heart is pure. There are moments in life when the soul breaks. One of those moments happened to me when I was 7. This experience changed me forever. I remember with extreme clarity how I disconnected from what was happening to me. and my mind and my soul went to a place far away where I was safe. The world that was once safe had now become extremely dangerous. Everything was a threat. Protection mechanisms activated in my body, my heart, mind, and soul. However, the problem with these protections is that in the long term, they didn't protect anymore. They kept me on permanent high alert. Stress, anxiety, chronic fatigue, depression, and social fears became my own personal fortress, which became my jail. I make myself unattractive and safe. If I hide, I'll be safe. If I'm quiet, I'll be safe. My whole concept of safety was disrupted. To be truly safe, you must trust in your ability to overcome whatever comes your way. My false sense of safety was anchored in fear. I believed that if I prevented danger, I'd be safe. And that was impossible. I realized that the safety I was looking for could never come from the outside world. It had to come from within. Safety is a state of mind, a state of consciousness. I learned that abuse is present in everyone's life in different forms: verbal, physical, emotional, mental, and sexual. There is no doubt that any form of abuse creates trauma. It's an invasion that potentially can harm someone for life. Everyone deals with trauma in different ways. After the abuse, I disowned my body and spiritualized my life. I lost connection with a part of my soul, and I created a reality where being in my body wasn't safe. Being human wasn't safe. For me, there was a clear separation between heaven and earth. Heaven was safe. Earth was hell. After experiencing sexual trauma, one of the hardest things for me has been to let love in while being in my sexual power. A life of fear and hypervigilance, where every man could potentially harm you, is not a life I wish on anyone. Healing sexual trauma is a journey of many layers. Regaining a sense of safety is not an easy task. Apart from the constant fear and alert, there's great loneliness and disconnection. Even though to be loved fully is the ultimate desire, to bring down the protective wall is the biggest risk. Fear to be seen, because if you are seen, you are at risk. Fear to speak up comes down to a leap of faith, a jump into the abyss, knowing that you're always held and guided. Sexual intimacy is the glue that merges two souls in the physical realm. This has been my biggest challenge and such a profound teacher. We need to belong to ourselves before we can ground ourselves in our relationships. I'm still working on it.
Maria Jesus. Oh, I have tears in my eyes. Thank you so much for sharing such a deeply personal story. I'm sure there are many of us who can identify with all that you've come through, but to come to that place of hope, of love. We can see in your artistry behind you that deep, the soul healing. Míle buíochas. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, you might imagine that Melanie and I thought deeply about the goddesses that we would bring to you. There's 13 in the book, and there's 39 women who have spoken about how their energies are influenced. But in this format, we could only bring you so much. Clachta's story is difficult. Many people don't associate her with Halloween. And she is one of these lesser known goddesses that are being brought forward, as is Ermid. Ermid is the Irish goddess of healing and herbs. And again, her story speaks of adversity and difficulty and even gruesomeness, but yet somehow these deities are finding ways to harness that which they offer us. They are not whitewashing what has happened. They are not in denial, but they are offering us something special. Ermid's father was Dianchek, and he was the god of medicine, the chief physician of the Tuatha Dé Danann, the tribe of Mother Earth. And with one of her beloved brothers, Miak, he would have been, if you will, a surgeon, and Ermid was very much the herbalist. And the father, Miak, and Ermid formed a formidable alliance, shall we say, and they found ways of treating the injured warriors and restoring people to health. However, the High King, Nuada, in battle, lost his arm. And there was a decree that if you lost your arm, if you were blemished in any way, you could not be the High King. So he was deposed. And Dianchek, the father, fashioned him a silver arm. So he became known as Nuada of the silver arm. But Miak and Ermid together, they thought there must be something that they can do. And incredibly, miraculously, you could say, they came up with a way for Nuada to grow a whole new arm. Now, you would imagine their father would have been overjoyed with this, but he was incensed with jealousy. And in a fit of rage, he killed his son, Miak. Ermid was distraught. I mean, this was her beloved brother. And she cried out to the herbs, to the plants, the plant kingdom, help me, help me. And with her tears watering the earth, 365 herbs sprang out of the earth, each one healing a different part of Miak's broken body. And she gathered all the herbs and she placed them on her cloak in the shape of his body to heal him. But once more, the jealous father scattered them to the four winds, and too late, Miak died. We don't know what happened to Dianchek, but we can imagine that Nuada, the High King, wasn't too impressed. But we do know that Ermid spent her life, devoted her life to amassing these herbs, these healing plants, and to share their wisdom with us today. She speaks of the alliance that we humans may have with the plant kingdom, and indeed with the trees and with all animals. And she speaks to us of awakening that within us so that we too can know that outside our front door, locally grown, is medicine that we can use in our lives to be healthy, to be happy. And it is my great pleasure to introduce to you the wonderful, the inimitable Sherry Scott, who indeed has a link with a very special animal called Happy. And Sherry is a biomagnetic therapist. She is an artist. She is a shamanic therapist. And she comes to us today very much with an exuberant and vibrant creativity from Goddess Hermit.
Myself. There we go. Hello everybody, great to see you all. I'm going to tell you the story about the Mermaid Circus. Hermit is my muse, and if I never know what to do or where to go, I just go to the garden, and there I'll find the message of what needs to be done. So I just say to everybody, get your herbs in, even a herbal tea, it's so good for your immunity. The Mermaid Circus. The Mermaid Circus bows down under a gypsy moon. Raglan sleeves shake the tambourine, ribbons flying high. Embrace the fire, flames are dancing, wild with tangoed heartbeat brew. Rhythmic colours stir in the darkness, tribal sounds inspired by moon. Mermaid Circus, paint your wagon. Mermaid Circus, burl and spin. Mermaid Circus, flotsam jetsam, hidden self, arise and grin. Circles in the meantime, blessings on the path, starlight brightly shining, trajectories of light, looking up, ever wide, starlight universe deep inside. Guardian cow, keeps space for ceremony, solstice freshness, belly button Irish, Uisneach rock. Elder tree, magical transformation. Crone medicine, breath of life. Breathe in, support of you, ancestral roots. Breathe out, oak, balance of heaven and earth. Breathe in, the scent of heather. Self-love brings lasting love. Breathe out, birch. New beginning, a starting place from where you can grow from. The Mermaid Circus dance the muse around a teacup and a Kelly kettle. Queen of herbs sits by the fireside near a little bit of stillness where the wild bees sleep. Mermaid Circus chants her landing amongst the nettles and the warming glow. Sacred, settled beings shining, feeling home and lying low. Closing hands are clasped together, circle rustles, soul's delight. Songlines of Ireland meander the garnet, dragon lines alive and bright. Happy Nollaig Naman.
Sherry Scott, thank you so much for your vibrancy, for bringing us into the world of the Mermaid Circus. I think we'll all be out now making our herbal teas from tomorrow on. Thank you so much. We spiral now to our final goddess of the evening. And we're certainly going out, dare I say it, with a bang, because our final goddess is Ceiliúradh. Now, Ceiliúradh, you might think, really? A goddess? I'm not sure about this. But I'm sure you will agree with me that over the particularly last 10 years, she has made herself known in dreams, in journeys, in synchronicities, in coincidence, time and time again. Ceiliúradh are ancient weathered carvings, usually on sacred sites, often in churches usually over portals, doorways, and windows. And they are of a woman, naked, exposing her labia, showing her vulva, usually with her face contorted in ecstatic ecstasy. Well, you might think, really? How many of these are there? Well, it is said at the moment in Ireland, there's at least 124 in Ireland. There's 45 in the UK, but I'm delighted to say that in the Celtic Isles, as far as Scotland, Wales, North France, and even down as far as North Spain and Portugal, there are Síle na gigs. There are 3 theories as to what Síle na gig is about and where she comes from. Her name is often translated as Síle, the Irish Gaelic for fairy woman, and the gig may be on her hunkers or of the vulva. I particularly like the fairy woman of the vulva. And some would say that in the ancient times, the goddess mother was revered. Here, her vulva is a portal to the world of birth, of fertility, of our moontime menstruation, of our sexuality, and how in our holistic world, our body, our mind, and our spirit are inextricably entwined with our energy and our sexuality. Therefore, the depictions of Síle na gig came from ancient times. Another theory is that after the Dark Ages, the Renaissance stonemasons came up from Italy through France, and they carved these in honor of the great mother goddess. And there's a third theory, which was espoused to, you may have heard it, that certain church leaders said, oh, it was to warn people of the sins of the flesh. Not really subscribing to that one myself. But Síle na gig, as, if you will, the goddess of sexuality, is gifting us the opportunity of sheer, unadulterated, untamed, unapologetic pleasure. And before you think to yourself, oh, I'm not in a relationship at the moment. She's talking about solo pleasuring. Very important. How can we possibly explain to our partners, whether they be male or female, how can we explain what works to bring us to that wild, untamable place if we don't know ourselves? Síle na gig invites us to explore in our baths, in our showers, in bed, out of bed, on the kitchen table, wherever, so that we understand the holistic power of our sexuality. And we marry that with the respect and the consent in the relationships with ourselves and with others. Our last Moon Mana is the wonderful Arlene Caffery. She is a dancer. She is a Moon Mana Circle facilitator. She is a teacher. And she herself is going to tell you of a particular type of dancing that not only does she perform, but she teaches. Inspired by Síle na gig, she's going to lead us in some, oh yeah, movement. Over to you, Arlene.
Thank you, Karen. And here's the opening shot of my rabbit.
I love it.
For the mood. You might also hear some cats in the background. They've just started chanting. So we're bringing in some actual pussy energy into this short movement practice. So I work with Síle na gig, and this is going to be a very short embodied movement practice so that we can safely tap into our inner Síle na gig through the power of the pelvis. So you might like to come and sit down on the floor with me on your knees like so, if that's comfortable for you. Or if you're sitting on a chair, you can also do this really effectively. Just scoot your butt forward a little bit so you've got a bit of space behind you for your back, because we're going to be moving our hips quite a lot. Before we start, you might be familiar with this cat and cow position if you have ever done yoga. So a really hard pelvic tilt, really showing off that glorious Ceiliúradh gig, or pussy if you prefer, and the tuck under, moving the opposite way so that we're bringing in that balance. So whenever you're ready, get yourself comfortable, take a deep breath in, whether you're sitting on your chair or if you're joining me on the floor to get really deep rooted into the earth, why not? And this is a solo practice, and you can share it with your friends, significant others, with the world if you want afterwards. So starting with your hands on your knees, you're going to start with that pelvic tuck under. So allowing the movement to be initiated from your pelvis. Imagine your inner Ceiliúradh gig, whatever you want to call her, that inner fire that we are hopefully all familiar with that resides deep in our pelvis. Starting to tuck under, allowing it to tuck under as hard as possible to ripple up through your spine, crown coming forward. And as you breathe out, start the tilt from your booty, allow it to ripple up through your chest, through your heart, your throat, and breathing out. Feels good, right? So let's do it some more. Tucking all the way under, and feel free, if you can see the other women, let's imagine that we're all in a room together doing this, tucking the tailbone under, and then rocking the pelvis forward, allowing it to ripple up through your spine. You might start to feel a smile coming as you're feeling that energy ripping up. That WAP, that wet ass pussy, as Cardi B calls it, which is home to Ceiliúradh gig. And if you want, we're going to start to take it side to side so it becomes a circular movement as we're tilting and tucking that pelvis. So making it as big as you can with that tilt, booty out, and circling around as we circle forward. Feel free if you want to bring your hands on your body. It's yours after all. You have permission to touch it if you so want. It doesn't bite. Feel free to bring it on your hips if you feel good. Again, no judgment, no shame, no apology, just love for you and your pelvis. Let's make it a little bit bigger now if you want to. Honoring that Ceiliúradh gig, feel free to close your eyes if you want to. Feeling the energy of the women around the world in our circle today. Honoring your Ceiliúradh gig with a smile. And we'll make it a little bit smaller now, allowing you to come, still coming back to your center, feeling that groundedness through your pelvis to the earth, and honoring that power that lies within. And relax as you take it to a stop. And well done for honoring your inner Ceiliúradh gig. Feel free to continue if you want, and take this practice with you out into your lives and into the world. Sha.
Sha, Mila Buikas, Arlene, thank you so much. Very much embodying Ceiliúradh gig there for us. And do you know what, Melanie, I felt it was important to go out on a high, and really from all that we have wonderfully spiraled through this evening. And our huge thanks to our 3 conversationalists, to our 7 performers. I mean, Nollaig Naman is all about community, it's all about connection. And we are just so astounded, one, with the amount of women who tried to get in. And we really thought we'd be sitting here with about 70, 80 women. And we were astounded, hundreds of you, like serious amount of hundreds.
That's a record for us actually on any Herstory event we've ever run. Outside of the Light Festival, we've never had that much interest. It just shows you that there's a real craving, a yearning for the goddess in our lives. It's such a beautiful indicator. I'm just, my heart is exploding. I'm so happy. And for anybody that's missed the event, don't worry, we're going to repost it across all our social media, and you'll get to watch it later, and share with family and friends too. You know, it'll be forever there in the ethers.
And did you see, Melanie, we have women from the 4 corners of Ireland. We have women from all over the UK, France, we have Switzerland, Canada, Newfoundland, North and South America, Puerto Rico, Nova Scotia, Australia.
Yeah.
I mean, literally Hawaii. Yeah, yeah.
And our sisters in Northern Ireland, in Belfast and Derry, I saw as well. It's amazing.
Yes,
to see
literally the four corners of Ireland. So important.
It's wonderful, isn't it? It's so heartwarming. And I want to say very special thanks to our partners, IrishCentral, for spreading the word across their network as well, because they're, you know, they're hugely supportive of the Irish diaspora and empowering the diaspora to be more involved in all things Irish and our culture. So it's a really beautiful moment, I think, for Manana Heron and Manana on Down as well, you know.
On down. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
well said. And do you know, I think there are some women who are here with us, either watching the live stream or on Zoom. We're conscious that maybe new to this, that the Moonmana are out in force, the Herstory women are out in force, but some of the IrishCentral women, this could be quite new for you. And if we have used some terms that you're thinking, I'm not really sure of that, I mean, our invitation for you is to explore. And I mean, we're very happy if you wish to explore with the book. And particularly, I'd love to highlight the many other women who wrote in the book, but are not particularly performers. So I'd love their stories to be heard as well. I know Barbara's with us and Catherine's with us and Dee is with us. So that would be fantastic. And yeah, Bernie has done, as you can say, a magnificent job. And yeah, I think she's a couple of bundles up there with the diary journal as well. So thank you very much, Bernie.
And thank you for all that you've created, Karen. What you've done for the women of Ireland and for all Irish women around the world is phenomenal. It really is testament to you and to all your team. Really special, extraordinary work. I have a copy of the book. I've seen it. It's magical. Everybody get your copy. It'll be your treasured book beside your bedside. And it's I think it's so inspired the way you've constructed it too. It's really divinely inspired to have 39 women embody the energies of the 13 goddesses. And I think it's the beginning. I can see in you a poster series launching soon, and you have to do a merchandise range, and we'll have to do more future events because the engagement, the interest is there. It's the beginning. And I can see it inspiring the next generation. I know somebody in the chat said, let's get these goddesses into the schools. We're going to work on that. That's the plan. It's really important.
And
you know,
if anybody's going to do that, Melanie, you are the woman. In fact, you already have done that in collaboration with RTE, with that magnificent cartoon series you had last year, with the wonderful documentary for adults. But then there was a sense of bringing it into school. And I think that's so important. And now you also maybe say a little bit about each of the county councils in Ireland they're feeling that spark of initiative, and they are bringing their local women to the fore.
Yeah, I mean, I think credit to Wicklow County Council for very much leading the light. We curated a beautiful event called Wicklow's Wonder Women and in winter last year, and I say we're still in winter, aren't we? But it was in November, December time. And it got a feature on RTE nationwide. And I just thought it was an amazing spotlight on one county and the women, the local heroines who had been all but forgotten. I mean, it's so sad to think that one of the women, they only had one photograph of her, even though she was, you know, they were trailblazers, they were record breakers. So every county council, I hope now, will be inspired to unearth their local heroines. The curiosity is there, the inspiration is there. And of course, this is a message out to the Irish diaspora and the world too, to look into your own family lineage and your ancestry, and to find the treasures there. And when you go through that process, it's a very healing journey. Myself and my mum, we've been on that journey, and you realize why you are who you are, and what needs to be healed, but also what needs to be celebrated. You know, it's a really beautiful journey. We've got a brilliant essay on the Herstory website written by our fantastic researcher and project manager, Caitlin Hanna, about how to research your own family history.
And a huge shout out to Caitlin, who has been
incredible, isn't she?
You may be watching this thinking, oh gosh, it's amazing. Like Bernie's image flashes up and then somebody comes in and out. And Caitlin is literally the wind beneath our wings. And she's going to be part of our wonderful wrap up. We're going to do something. It's very Moonmana, and Melanie loved it. So we're going to ask you all to go on gallery view. So as you know, you go up to the top left-hand corner of your screen, and in the drop-down menu, put gallery view. We're just going to close off the chat there for a minute. And what we're going to do is ask you in a few moments to unmute yourself. Yes, I know. And hopefully Caitlin's ready to do a screenshot on this. And we finish our Moonmanal circles where we receive rites of passage of the goddesses and we honor our bodies, we journey to the wisdom of the land. But we always finish in an inimitable way. And we're inspired by Nora Barnacle, a woman from Galway, and she was the wife and muse of James Joyce. And he based his character of Molly Bloom in his book Ulysses on his wife. And as you know, we women, we're used to getting the last word. And in this book, we paraphrase the last 3 words of Molly Bloom. So will you join us? Those of you who are Moonmanal know how to do this. Everybody else, it's really easy. So unmute yourself. You're going to bend your knees slightly and then copy us. A hain, a do, a three. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Well done. Well done. Thank you.
Magical evening.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Mila Boyacus.
Longer,
Cheerio.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
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 That's it.